Thank you. Thanks, Tatiana, and welcome everybody who's here. I appreciate you guys being here, and it's a great opportunity here for me. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite, and I love being able to just share anything that might be helpful. I certainly don't have the market cornered on knowledge, so but I do. I have been at this for a while, as witnessed by the gray in my beard. So I've had some experiences. I've seen. Today, what I wanted to share with you guys was a little bit about influence. I've been in quality assurance for over 25 years, been over various development organizations as well as QA, but always QA. QA is near and dear to my heart. And what I've noticed a lot of times in many QA organizations is a lot of times we are put in bad situations and we inherit maybe bad processes. And it's easy for us in QA, I think, oftentimes to have kind of a victim mindset, because a lot of times processes and or timelines work in our favor, right? Development. The classic example is we have a development. Here's our timeline. Development should be done here. Development isn't done until here. This date doesn't change, and now we get to manufacture time. If we could all manufacture time, we would probably be doing something else for a living. I know that I would if I could manufacture time. That could probably pay pretty well in some other fields. So a lot of times it's easy to get into a victim mindset. But the question becomes then, what can we do to change our situation? What can we do complaining obviously isn't going to get you anywhere. So what can we do that could actually, where we're taking control of the situation instead of being affected by the situation? And I think one of those things that's overlooked that is a subtle way that we can make changes in an organization is through using influence. And if you think about what influence is, you could say that it's managing through the middle. You're in the middle of a process. We might not be leading the process. We might not necessarily be the end of the process. We're managing from the middle. And it's also, the power to like indirectly change something or someone or a process. How do we indirectly change something where we're not using a hammer, right? Or maybe we're using a velvet hammer. And so it's subtle changes. We're not trying to make a big ruckus, but we can absolutely change the way things are done. And we can do it with a subtle, a subtle way. So what I'm going to do is see if I can, I sent that deck to you, Tatiana. I don't think sharing's turned on where I can share right now, but I could share it because I tried to. Yeah, I'll send you a request. There you go. I sent you a share request, so maybe it'll let me now. I can share what I got here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what we've got here, let me know if you guys, hopefully you guys can see this. So basically on this, we have some different ways that we can influence. There's typically 5 styles that are talked about from a psychological perspective on how you can influence things. And so how do we relate that to QA to where it makes sense, to where appropriate? And so the first one that, obviously there's a lot of dysfunction in a lot of different organizations where things aren't really working the way that they should. And so there's always room for improvement. Obviously, if you're using Agile, you have retros where you can come back and you can basically talk about some of those things that you can do to make things better. One of the first things that we talk about when we talk about using our influence is rationalizing things. And this should be right up QA people's alleys, right? This is using logic and data and facts to persuade others. And what's the number one thing that we can do from a QA perspective to be able to change something or to be able to tell a narrative? And that's metrics, period. They could be agile metrics for the team at large. They could be specific to QA. But if we're having a problem, then we can use metrics to tell a story. I'll give an example. We didn't have enough BAs on one of our teams when I first took over at Accent Care, where I currently work. And I needed to be able to make the story on why we needed more BAs. We didn't have significant requirements coming in. Acceptance criteria was at a minimum. It wasn't defined well. Therefore, the testing wasn't defined well. We didn't have a lot to base our testing off of. There was a lot of exploratory testing, etc. So what I had to do was show how much scope creep we were having in our sprints after they had already started. So I actually started taking that measurement. And basically, all I would do was very simple. I'm not going to make it sound like it was some complex formula because it wasn't. It was very simple. It was how many acceptance criteria did we start the sprint with across the user stories? And then how many acceptance criteria did we end the sprint with across those same user stories? Or if for some crazy reason a user story got added mid-sprint. And I was able to show the delta. I was then able to attribute those extra acceptance criteria that came in, that scope creep. This was IT responsible. This was at the foot of product. Product was responsible for this scope creep. And so once I started taking those metrics, and then the other important thing about metrics when you're rationalizing and you want to have influence, you share them. Metrics don't do any good on a spreadsheet. I share them with everybody so that it was a full transparency. And so in doing so, I was able to show we're running at about 25 to 30% with our scope creep. And we're not setting the team up for success. They're having to steal victory from the jaws of defeat, sprint by sprint, to be successful. And that's not going to make anybody happy. It's not going to make for good quality. It's not going to make for good anything. So I was able to use those metrics and then take that to influence people above me with bigger titles on, we need more BAs. We're not covering this in the way that we should. So that's a small example. It's also a metric that I find really useful, is just by simply adding up the number of acceptance criteria and then how many do you have at the end. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be anything. And Tatiana, I can't see the chat, but I know if questions come up, I can take questions as we go, or I can do it at the end, however you want to do it. But so if you ever want to just jump in and ask a question or anyone like that, we can do it that way. Either way is fine.
Yeah, so, if I see something important, I'll jump in, and then otherwise we'll leave it to the end.
Right, sounds good. So that's really the one way we can do it. And again, this is right up QA's alley, doing rationalization, because we should be living in metrics. We do analysis. That's what we do. So this would be something very familiar for a QA person to be able to do. You just have to take the time to find the metric that fits the narrative that you want to influence and change. And then you let the really important thing about doing rationalizing is it takes the emotion out of it. Sometimes, like I said, if we're in a victim mindset, or if we're feeling like things aren't going our way and we're getting unfairly squeezed or this or that, if we make it about data and we make it about metrics, then we're not making it about emotion. And that is key, because it's very easy. I've been on the bad end of a lot of things, and I'm sure some of you guys have in QA positions, but when you let emotions take control, obviously you kind of lose the narrative, and that's not going to help anyone out in the long run. So that's the first one that we talk about, is we talk about, rationalizing. The second one you can see here would be asserting. And that's stating your position and your expectations clearly. How can we have influence in QA for that? I think this is super important. And that's when we talk about test planning, and these are all things that we do, but we'll go a little bit deeper. We do test planning and we have test cases. My question would be, how often are we transparent with those? And do we go and get them reviewed and get sign off from other people, so that we're, as a team, in agreement and we're delivering, instead of this just being something siloed to the QA team? If we want to have a bigger influence on the outcome of our quality, and we want influence from our product team, because we want their input. We don't want anybody to not be knowledgeable about something we're doing and be surprised at the end result. So that's another way we can do it. An example that I could maybe give right now that we're doing currently on our data engineering team is we're coming up with a list of, there are different projects that we have on data engineering that could result in maybe some dashboards, maybe some reports, maybe some ETL things, et cetera. But what are some high level scenarios that we're always going to have, always, no matter what we test, requirements aside, that are specific to specific data requirements, just in general, that we're always going to have? That's nothing big. That's nothing new. It's not reinvention of the wheel. But what we're doing is we're passing them all the way through the development team, so development can add in their inputs. We're passing it through the BA so they have their inputs. And then we're meeting with the product team to get their inputs and get their sign off, so that now, as a Scrum team and as an organization, we have full we are stating up front, this is what we're going to do. Are you good with this? This is exactly our position. This is how we're going to deliver things. And these are the expectations you can have of us that we're going to do. So small example, again, nothing earth shattering, but it doesn't always have to be earth shattering. Sometimes the smallest things and the littlest things have the biggest impact. So it doesn't always have to be something large. It can be a ripple, but that ripple can actually make a pretty good amount of change downstream. So if we're upfront, sometimes I think in QA we're afraid to raise our hands because we hear that there's a date. Maybe we're not as assertive as we need to be because there's a date. We can't stand up and say, no, it's not ready because I know these executives want this to go out the door, whatever it might be. But I think, again, when we make it about metrics, we make it about stating our position early and clearly and being transparent with communication. And you're going to hear me say that a lot here because at the end of the day, doing all of these things and doing influence is a form of communication. And you would, if you know me or got to know me, you would know communication is at the core of everything. AI is great. Automation is great. Everything that QA is adopting and all the technologies that are progressing are awesome. If you don't have good communication and you don't have a quality assurance team, like quality people, quality communicators, it doesn't really matter. All that stuff is going to get lost in the shuffle anyway. So you really have to have a team that is willing to communicate, willing to influence, willing to change, willing to adapt. That's where these ideas come from. Again, these are mainly taken from psychology. So we'll go to the third one now, negotiating. This one obviously is huge. This is obviously seen really in a lot of ways. One of the examples I put here is collaborate on test planning, which we kind of spoke about with the product and development teams. But another way this comes in on negotiating and influence is negotiating when we're talking about timelines, when we're talking about deliverables. These are, again, things where we want to include people. We want to have open, honest communications. We want to be talking with the product team. We want to be talking with the development team. We want to be talking with everybody. And we don't want to not share bad news. There's an old saying that I've always told to my team. I don't know where it came from, but it's basically that good news takes the stairs and bad news takes the elevator. We want bad news and we want it quickly. That's why when you do stand-ups, you talk about roadblocks. We don't want to hide anything that would be perceived as a problem, a roadblock, or something negative. We want to flesh that stuff out. We actually want to talk about that stuff. We want to bring it. And so sometimes it's a form of negotiating where we have to negotiate. So we could go to product and we could say, look, we're not going to be able to finish this by this date, but we could do this by this date. Or we could make this, withdrawal and deliver it at a later date, whatever it is. I mean, we've all had different types of negotiations where deliveries are modified or scope is reduced. That's actually the ideal one right there is you reduce scope. You don't not test something, obviously. You reduce scope and then deliver and then maybe deliver follow on afterwards, whatever it is. But negotiating is a way in QA that we can do something and that we can affect a positive outcome instead of being the victim of an outcome that someone else has decided for us. If we assert ourselves, if we make it about metrics, if we negotiate, we can then possibly make these changes and be in front of them instead of being behind them. And I think that's a lot of what this whole influence thing is about anyway. We use our influence so that we can be proactive instead of being reactive. Being proactive, you ever notice that when I tell my team this a lot, whenever they're communicating to me, when they proactively communicate and give me data, they control the message. So whenever you communicate to your boss or to anyone and you're sending out information without them asking for it, you're controlling the narrative at that point. When someone has to come and ask you for information, they control your narrative. And you send them something and then they come back and then they go, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Because they're looking for information. But when you're pushing information, you typically keep management away because they have the understanding now that you understand what's going on. You're pushing the information to them. They don't come looking for anything. So So that's three. We've got rationalizing, asserting, negotiating. We have inspiring as the next one, using vision and enthusiasm to motivate others. And I think this is a good one. Obviously, anybody can inspire anyone. I think this really falls a lot to management as well. I would say 99% of problems in an organization you can lay at management's feet. That's how I believe. If things aren't good, it's because things aren't being managed the right way. And I like the idea here of sharing a compelling story of quality and quality. And I say this a lot, quality being a row and not a column. A lot of times we look at a delivery process and people think of QA as here. Here's our BA, here's our development, here's the product team, here's QA, here's a change management, and then we go to production. QA is really a row, and it is a row that should run across the organization, and there should be quality checkpoints in each group. And that's another way that we can share a compelling vision and change something. If we're getting things, how many of you have worked in an organization where you get code and you've had the code for 5 minutes and you found like 5 things and you're like, what the heck, what's going on here? This is not good. And we need to throw this. Did you just code this and throw it over the wall? We've all said, throw it over the wall. We've all been the recipients of code that was thrown over the wall that wasn't even looked at. So how do we change that? So I think, we talk about how we can have quality. I just had a call before this, in fact, where I was talking to the VP at our corporate applications, and they're trying to we're going to be implementing our QA into their group. We've never had QA in their group. It's usually been on the development side, the application development side. Now we're implementing QA over on their side. And I was kind of talking to her about how this would work. And I was like, you could make a much more compelling case for having quality if you would think about, you have developers, what are you doing with your developers that's promoting a quality outcome? Do they do peer reviews of their code? Do they do any unit testing that they have metrics for that can be an artifact, that would do that? So that before we get to QA, we're having, we're ensuring that we're getting the best quality that we can. So I think that's another way that we can have influence. If we see that there's quality areas that aren't happening, and I'm just using the development because that's an easy one. There could be quality improvements that need to happen in change management and/or in requirements gathering. Maybe the right people aren't being invited to the requirements gathering meetings, et cetera, that need to be. Maybe there's not the right sign-offs that are happening. So how can we use our influence to inspire other people to want to have quality in their organizations and in their parts of the delivery as well? So that leads us to the next one, which is bridging. And that's like, building relationships and connecting perspectives. Obviously, this is super important. Nothing gets changed. At the end of the day, we all are technologists, but we're all people, and we all have to connect with people. And the way to get things done is via people and getting people onboarded. That's what influence is. It's getting someone to come to your side and see things the way you see them, and to maybe have them adopt the way you're seeing something, and making it make sense for them as to why they should adopt your point of view. And you make it to where, hey, this is what you're going to get out of it. And it's a relationship and it doesn't matter where you work. You could work at McDonald's, you could work at Pep Boys, you could work at Kaiser Permanente, you can work anywhere, Aetna Health. At the end of the day, it's about people, it's about relationships. And that's how you use your influence. I can't influence someone else in my organization if I've upset them or I've talked bad about them and we don't have a good relationship. I can try to be inspiring. I can try to do rationalization. At the end of the day, they're not going to receive anything from me that I do if I don't have any kind of relationship with them, and I don't actually show any kind of empathy. I don't listen to anything they have to say. I don't care about what their feedback is. I don't want to receive any dialogue from them. I'm shut down to ideas of change. There's nothing that's ever going to happen. I'm not going to be able to use my influence at all. And oftentimes when we're in QA, management has to go and try to make a case on why something needs to be modified because it's impacting the QA team. The only way that we can do that is by using a bridging influence type of behavior, where we've really spent time in connecting with those people and actually getting to know them caring about what their concerns are, eliciting feedback from them, listening to that feedback, not with the intent to respond, but with the intent to understand, and not just hearing someone. It's easy to hear someone, it's different to listen. So I think that's super important. I think that's one of the most important ones. I think these are almost in order to me from top to bottom, in order of importance on how I approach these different levels of influence. And that leads us to the last one. And to me, again, I think this is the most important one, bridging right before that. And this is the one that you don't find in psychology books, that they don't talk about, but this is the one that I've added that I think actually makes the most sense. If you want something to change, to me, and again, this is my perspective and based on my experience, the best way to do that is be the change, is model the behavior that you want. Whether it's my team, I want them, I should be an example to my team on how we do things. So they're going to be watching me. And so however I do things is basically setting the stage for them and some interactions they might have and how they might use influence with other people. So they should be watching me. Likewise, my boss, he's going to model certain behaviors to me, and his boss, they're going to model behaviors to me. But really, if we want to influence an organization, whether it be by processes and standards that we do or behaviors that we have, then what we should do is just model them. We do them, we share them. And I think when we're transparent about those, we don't have to make a big deal about it. Oh, hey, everyone, we have this process, but we send out the things that we do, and we do it to inform. We do it to be transparent. A lot of times, I've been in organizations where QA doesn't want to be transparent because they don't want to share bad news. They don't want to have perception be negative for the group or for the team or anyone like that. So I think that, that is super important. I think that when we have modeling, it's making it real. It's something where, behaviors are what really matter at the end of the day. Somebody can read something, that's great. Somebody can say something, that's great. But when you see somebody do something, that carries a lot more weight than reading about something or someone just talking about something. But when you see somebody modeling the very thing it is they talk about, or the very thing it is that they preach about, there's so much more power in that. And so whatever, processes that you're implementing, whatever standards that you're trying to implement, and everything, whatever behaviors you're trying to elicit from your team or from an agile team as a whole, because you want the team to agree on certain behaviors and that the team acts as a team and you're not just acting as a bunch of individuals. If you want those types of behaviors, the best way to do that is to basically model those behaviors. And I just think that, personally for me, that's the most important one of all of them. And I have this slideshow here that basically is talking about all the different things that we've just talked about. And I just led with those main slides. I wanted to leave this behind in case anybody ever wanted it. And I could just basically, this talks about, everything that I've spoken about up to this point. Choosing the right style, what I would say, choosing the right style. I think you basically, there's not a right time exactly for any of these styles. It's knowing who your audience is. It's knowing the situation. You could use any of these. You could use some of them simultaneously. I do think bridging and I do think that modeling are probably the two most important, because if you've got a good relationship with someone, your chances of influencing that person with any of these other types or any of these other styles is much more likely to happen. And when you model it, I mean, it's a home run to me. So these are just some quick little things that I wanted to share. And I'm probably just a little short on 30 minutes, but I wanted to leave room to talk about some other things, Tatiana. So I know this isn't meant to be like an hour long tribal speech or anything like that. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to, or any discussion items, I'd be more than happy to talk.
Yeah, we love discussions too. And thank you so much for such a great presentation. This is the first time I'm hearing it, and I find it definitely reflecting what I had to do in my job as as a quality leader, right? I had to do this day to day. And so you're saying like pick the right one, but I almost had to use all of them all the time. So
Mhm.
I think it's definitely great to master them all, right?
Yeah.
And then figure out like, okay, maybe I intentionally choose this one for this specific problem. Um, I also love that, sometimes testers just think like, hey, we are great testers. This is what we do. And we don't realize that the influence is the other big part of a quality professional. And if we don't know how to influence, the testing skill is not going to help us,
Yeah.
right? So it's almost like 50-50. We have to be a good tester, but also know how to influence. All right, we had a few questions in the chat. I'll start with Pragna. Do you want to speak up or do you want me to read this? Because you might need to clarify some of this. Do you want to just ask them live?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Hi, this is
I,
Pradnya. So all these things are great that what we are talking, and that's what we have lived by for till now.
okay.
But with the AI, like people want to speed up everything, the processes, they don't want to follow these kind of processes that existed, like test planning
Mhm.
and all those things, writing test cases.
Right.
They want to condense everything. So where do you see things changing, or if they will change fast? Because QA is the first one on the chopping block, right? Whenever new tech and new changes, processes
I
come
mean,
in.
yeah, I know what you're saying, and I would probably have a different point of view. I would say, well, it depends on your organization, right? Like, what do they value? Like, do they value velocity or do they value quality? Because sometimes those two things don't exist exactly at the same time, right? As we know, you can go really fast, but that doesn't mean you're delivering with quality. I mean, if you're having to triage things in production after you delivered, did you really deliver? So I think AI is actually going to allow for more quality opportunities. I mean, I don't think it's going to allow for less. We can't make the assumption AI is still obviously in its infancy, and we don't even know. AI only knows the data that it can pull from. It doesn't know everything, right? It only knows whatever dictionary it has access to, and whatever data it has access to, that's what it knows. So AI can help us. It can help us in our test cases. It can help us in our test planning. I mean, you can use that and put requirements in there, and you can have AI help you come up with your test cases so that you're spending more time testing and less time doing the upfront work. Because like, what QA person likes writing test cases? I've never met one. I've never met a QA, but it's probably the same like what developer likes unit testing. I've never met one. So we can use AI to help us those menial tasks that we don't like. Obviously, we'd still have to review to make sure the test cases are actually accurate, because just because AI did them doesn't mean they're right. So that's why I think there's still quality opportunities, even with AI, testing the AI to make sure the AI is correct. So,
Yeah, totally.
so we
Like
can use
AI.
that. Yeah, we can use that to do our test planning and to come up with test cases, but we'd still have to review them. But it could make us more efficient. So it could actually make your testing faster when you spend more time actually doing the testing, right? And then AI can actually help us, and depending on what tools you utilize, can actually help you do your testing as well. But there's still got to be some kind of inspection from a QA perspective to make
True,
sure
true.
we're getting the right stuff, right?
Yeah, but as you mentioned, like what organization is looking for, I think most of the organizations are favoring for velocity because they are seeing other organizations are moving faster, so they have to move faster, right? It's
I,
all the catch-up game that
mhm.
everybody is playing. And unfortunately, quality becomes, so they want quality, but at a really, really faster pace
Yeah.
with less amount of workforce.
Yeah, I collect metrics, man. I just collect metrics like crazy, and I can show on a Scrum team. I can show where when we reach a certain velocity, the quality drops. So I can show that to them on a graph. Super simple, because the more data that you have for your metrics, the better stories you can tell. So to me, I can show for sure when we reach a velocity of X number of points, the quality actually dips. When we run at this level right here, quality is normalized and it's very predictable, and that's what they like. So I sell to them, you like predictability. Here's how you can be predictable and not have any cause for concern. But if you go too fast, it's like anything, right? You can run an engine on a car and you can redline it and you can run it at full, but at some point the engine's it's going to run out of gas. You're going to throw a rod out of your engine. Something's going to happen bad. So you can go fast for short terms, but it's more about what if we have a normalized speed and we're consistently quick. And so I think it's our job to show them the difference. Here's what it's going to cost you. If we go this fast, it's going to cost you quality. That's how we can do that narrative. Metrics are just, to me, they're huge. They're really a way for us to it's a huge way for QA to be able to influence exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So.
And if I can chime in here, I feel like as a quality leaders, we a lot of times educate our bosses and our leadership on how to do quality because they want velocity, but they don't know how to do that with quality. So that's where the Blake's influence styles come in, right? We still have to influence them and educate them like, hey, here's how you can do it, and here's the outcome and the results. So I think we'll still be there, even if in a smaller numbers, and we'll still have to influence them. So I think the skills Blake is talking about are still super applicable, even in the AI world.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Okay, and we had Aja talking about that. Even in the AI world, communication skills are even more critical, right? And not less critical, which I also agree with. Do you want to speak to that, Blake?
I think let's see what with AI test planning and other QA processes evolving, and how do I see it change? That's the one we just had.
That's
right?
the previous one. Yeah, the next.
And there's a metrics one that what metrics are the most important? I see that question. I can speak to that one. That's up at the top.
Okay, no, I was asking about the last one. So Ajay is saying basically that she was at the conference and the major takeaway was that the generative AI makes communication skills even more critical.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what do you think?
When you're I think that one is I think, when you're in QA, the communications that you make, I mean, we're talking about everything. Our test plans are a form of communication. Our test cases, our defects are a form of communication. Everything is a form of communication when you really think about it. And there exists the opportunity for massive misunderstanding when it comes to when you're dealing with AI and what expected outcomes are. You have a data set here and it goes through a transformation and you're expecting this on the other side. What should those expected results be? That's another form of communication. What are the expected results? And do we all agree on the expected results? And do we understand the data that's being there? There's a lot of opportunity for miscommunication, I think, to happen there for sure. And so I just think I can't say that I know a perfect way around it, but when you're dealing with that, that's different testing. You're not testing through a GUI. You're not testing anything else like that. You're testing data sets. I create this data set and I expect it to find AI to find this set of data out of this data set. That's a different thing altogether. So communicate, again, communication, we're never really taught that, right? Like, think about it. When management, even testers, anyone in IT, it's always technical, which is great, but there's very little given on ways to effectively communicate. And even more when we're talking about in the IT space, like how are effective ways to communicate? We're kind of thrown to the wolves and we kind of learn it as we go. So yeah, I just think it's absolutely critical for sure. And then I did see the one about the metrics that are the most important. And I think, to answer that question really quick, I think it depends on your group. I'll share a couple that I have that I think are super helpful. I track scope creep. That is a huge one if you want to tell a story about impacts to QA. Track your scope creep. And then not just tracking your scope creep, track who's responsible for the scope creep. Because when product was trying to sneak things in and get things in, and I identified the scope creep, it stopped like that as soon as it got communicated out to everybody. So if you want to stop scope creep, that's a great way to do it. Track that metric. Another metric that I have is ideal velocity. What is ideal velocity? I made it up, but the thought behind ideal velocity was this: my team can deliver this, and here's how many defects we had. If we wouldn't have had this many defects in our system this month during the sprint, we could have delivered this many story points. So I attribute a value to the defects that we have. And that's a formula I came up with. I won't bore you with details, but it basically has to do with how many people we have, how many man hours are in a month, all that kind of stuff. And I can figure out at a base value that a defect is worth, let's just say, throw it out, one defect is worth a third of a story point, or it's worth half a story point. So every time we have, whatever, so it adds up. So the defects at the end, let's say I've got 8 points worth of defects. We delivered 50 points in user stories. We could have delivered 58. So I show that graph, and it's not to call anyone out or do anything like that, but that's kind of like a development metric, right? We're delivering, it's either there was a defect in the code or there was a defect in the requirements, one of the two. And so we track that, and I put it on a graph, and obviously those two lines should realistically never meet, right? Because you're never not going to have a defect. So these two lines, the goal is to get the two lines as close together as you can. So it's just more to show the team, here's the ideal velocity you could have had we not had so many defects in the system. I think that one is a really, really big one to track. I think those two alone, on top of the velocity that you're getting, like how many are you delivering? I think those are two, just to give you a couple examples without going on too long, that I think are really important. And I see that there is a hand raised.
Yeah. Hey,
Yes.
great presentation on this influencing styles and a lot of tips. I would like to urge on this velocity.
Mhm.
I have started doing this concept of, hey, at the end of sprint, this is what we tried, but due to this defects, we had seen this much of velocity drop down because maybe the dev code is not there.
Mhm.
But the way the team had accepted is quite opposite. I didn't expected that it will be a rebel style. Did you ever face this type of challenge, or anyone in the call? I would love to hear how you have overcome, because it's gonna be like a win-win situation between dev and QA, and the
Mhm.
velocity planning should be always something we both agree on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I
Absolutely.
would love to know if anyone had anything positive or negative when you came up with this type of strategy when discussing with the team.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would just say real quick is that whenever you have a team, it's important that the team all agree on what the team values are.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times that doesn't happen. I
Yep.
think teams are just thrown together and expected to work together, but just like any other team, teams only get better the longer they work together and the more they practice together, and they have to have a common core set of beliefs that they agree to.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just a bunch of individuals working on different teams. So it's important to me, whoever your scrum master is, get together, and the developers, the BAs, the DBAs, the QAs, whoever, the business,
Mm-hmm.
everybody agrees, like, these are our core set of values. We're going to value, for example, communication, transparency, being honest, whatever they are. And like our
Mm-hmm.
team has 6 different values that we all agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that, I know it sounds crazy, but that's almost never done. In any company I've ever worked with that does agile, I would say 95% of them don't do that. When you do that, when you come back in your situation and you share metrics like that, people aren't going to be standoffish and be like, oh no, we can't, I don't like that. You're like, no, wait, we've agreed that this is how we're going to act as a team. This is a team. This isn't QA and dev. This is a delivery team. It's a scrum team. It's not QA and dev anymore. It's a scrum team. We're one team. And so that's how I would overcome that situation, is going back to the beginning and saying, what are our common beliefs? What do we agree upon? What is it we hold a truth to that's going to navigate how we communicate and interact and deliver as a team? That would help remove that issue right there, straight up. I mean, it just would. So I would talk to your scrum master probably.
Yeah, a great tip. Maybe I think I should work through the Scrum Master and get aligned. If
Yeah.
Scrum Master says, I think definitely the whole team will listen.
Yeah.
I'll take that approach. Thanks for the
Yeah.
tip. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you have a quality leadership, like they can help have this conversation too. Sometimes when there's a director of quality or QA manager, they could sit
Mhm.
down with the development and say like, hey, let's agree on what value quality is to us and
Mhm.
how are we gonna align on that, right? But if you don't, then you have to have that conversation through a scrum master or project manager or someone.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a director. I think Scrum
Yeah.
Master would be a right person. I can start pivoting in that and see how it works for our team. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tatiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a good retro topic. Like if you're having retros, that'd be a great thing to bring up in a retro. It's like, hey, why don't I have a suggestion? Why don't we get together and talk about what our team what our team beliefs are, what our team values are. And if you look at the Scrum process, like the official Scrum process, that's actually part of the Scrum process, is a
Mhm.
team agreeing to what the team values are.
Yep.
And if you
Yeah.
haven't agreed to any, then
So, Blake, I've also been in the teams where I would bring it up when I was an individual contributor, and everyone would be like, what? Like these soft skills, values, who cares about that? We care
right,
about delivery, right? And so
right.
it's kind of hard to overcome that. And
Mhm.
sometimes in the team like that, there needs to be a top down who says, like,
Yes.
okay, I'm a
Yes.
manager, I'm gonna sit down and talk about it, right?
That's where we use our influence to influence the manager to be able to have that conversation, exactly, because it does need to come top down sometimes. And so
Yeah.
that's where we can go talk to the manager and use our influence and talk about, hey, we do Scrum here. If you look at actual Scrum, we should be doing this. Could you help us? It's part of
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
help drive that through the team? But you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some cases, you're going to need someone to do that. You're going to need a champion.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe your dev manager can be your champion. Maybe they don't know that these conversations are getting ignored at that level. So
Mhm.
have a conversation with them and see if they can be a facilitator of like, hey, we do care about quality. Here's how we're gonna not ignore these conversations.
Right.
Absolutely.
Try that.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do we have more questions or topics for discussion? Who else wants to ask? Or if you folks want to share how you planning to apply what you've learned today. Like maybe you've learned something new and you're like, hey, I'm going to try this out in my team and here's the situation I'm going to apply it to. We would love to hear about that. Or any questions, please speak up.
And if anyone wants, I'd be more than happy if you just message me on LinkedIn or whatever. If you want a copy of the presentation, I'll be happy to send it to you if anybody wants it.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm interested. Maybe I can reach out to you in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just connect to me and I'll send it right over.
Thank you.
We'll be sharing the recording with everyone as well, and we'll share the slides with the recording. It will be on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to YouTube. We always post these recordings there. I'll put the YouTube channel here. So if there are no more questions, then I'll wrap this up and share any resources that we have for you guys. So the YouTube channel, you guys can find recordings from these meetups there. Even if you missed a meetup, please join us. I'll put this in chat right away. If any of you are looking for jobs, we have a job support group in WhatsApp. We also have a meetup for that that is happening today at 4:30. So if you need help figuring out how to find a job, please join that. You guys are probably part of so this is our meetup today for job support group. And there is a WhatsApp group if anyone wants to talk about that as well. So thank you, Blake. Let me see. Okay, question from Aja, I guess. Let's take that. Any recommendations on where to learn more about measuring scope creep? I think that's a great question for you, Blake.
Yeah, that's something I don't know. I don't know too many people. I've never met anyone that actually measures that. So it's something that I just kind of measured because I thought it would be something that I could use to my advantage, right? So I think if you can count, I think a simple way to do it, quite honestly, is if you have any way of counting your requirements that you have before a sprint starts or the day the sprint starts, because any changes to the requirements that would happen during the sprint would have to be updated by the BA during the sprint and be left on the user story, right? So it could be a metric that your BAs track for you. And in the BAs, that's a metric. Like if I was running an organization that had the BAs, I'd have the BAs, that would be a metric they would track, right? And then I would collect that metric from them because they would know how many requirements we start with and then how many we finished with at the end of the sprint, because we can't have a change to requirements and it not be recorded. I mean, I guess that could happen. Realistically, it shouldn't. But if it's going to be recorded on the user story, then you're going to have a delta between how many you started with and how many you finished with. And whatever that delta is your percent of scope creep, of increase. It's going to be an increase of scope creep. That would be a simple way to do it. And we do acceptance criteria on our user story. So it's very easy to find. We'll have a list of like 15 acceptance criteria. So that one user story has 15 requirements. So that's 15. User story 2 has 20. So now we've got 35 requirements, and then we count them at the end. It's a little manual, but it's an easy way to get truth and to just get it. It's actually not very time consuming, but that's really the best way to track that scope creep. And then if you want to delve down a little bit more and break that scope creep of the 25% scope creep, we can attribute 75% of it to IT, meaning we missed it. The BAs here, we missed something. That's a BA metric. We missed some requirements. The other 25% we can attribute to the business wanting changes after the sprint started. So you might not have to break it down that much, but even just showing a percentage of scope creep can really show why velocity is affected. So that's how I would measure it. I don't know another way to do that per se. There might be other ways, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, for me, from my experience, we would also measure it manually. It will always be if we make updates to the story. Sometimes the story, the story estimated increased, right? So if the additional requirements gets added, so the story, let's say, was 5 points and it became 8 points. So you basically just compare how many points difference.
Okay, you could do it that way. That makes sense. Yeah, that's another way you could do it. If you had to modify your points.
Yep.
Then yeah, then you started with 50, but you ended up modifying it to where you modified it to 58. So you had scope creep of 8 points.
Exactly.
You can do it that way too.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Chitra.
Yeah, I can chime in. Like we came across this couple times, and the only thing we agreed with the stakeholder is MVP. What amount of work you really wanted to be delivered for that particular release. So we come up with that points, and what the additional scope that they had requested will be something post release or in the next upcoming iterations. So that really helped a lot when we did this change.
Yeah. Ideally, the whole goal of measuring scope creep is to where you don't have any more, right? It's because once you start measuring, there's this old saying, it's what gets measured gets managed. And that means once you start measuring things, it usually stops, because when you disseminate that information and you're transparent with it, people see that you're tracking it and people don't want to get called out. So whatever behaviors it is that's causing that, right, it usually comes to a stop. So the goal is to do what you're saying. If any scope creep comes, it's like, no, not right now. Next sprint or follow on, we'll do it to keep it out of the current sprint. Because once the sprint starts, it's supposed to be pretty much locked down, that unless something massive happens. So yeah, that's a good way to handle it. The goal, that's the whole reason with metrics, is to get certain behaviors to start or certain behaviors to stop.
Yeah. And in my last company, we kind of put that metric on PMs, because PMs are responsible for defining the requirements for the stories. So we hold them accountable, and we said like, hey, you guys measure the scope creep that is happening because that is due to the requirements changing or not a clear requirements. If you guys don't give a clear requirements, then that means that it's going to change, and it's your responsibility to give us clear requirements, right? So put it on PM specifically and say like, hey, that's your metric. You should be holding yourself accountable for the high level requirements.
Agreed. Absolutely.
All right, we're 2 minutes away. Any last minute questions? Great. All right. Thank you, Blake. Please reach out, connect with Blake. Please join us for the future meetups, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, team. Bye.
Thanks, Tatiana. Thanks, everybody.